Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Eddie Gamez. Eddie Gamez, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, and then let's plug your stuff up top so that anybody in New York City can see you do stand-up in person, but also if they're not so lucky to live in this great city, where can they find you online?
They can find me at Eddie Gamez Comic on Instagram and Twitter, and then Eddie Gamez Comedy on Facebook. That's where they can find me.
Yeah, and I follow you on Twitter, so you are at Eddie Gamez, and it's Gamez.
Right.
Are you at Eddie Gamez or at Eddie Gamez Comedy?
At Eddie Gamez Comic. Comedy was too long, so I couldn't, I couldn't put that in.
At Eddie Gamez Comic. And I was thinking, it was too long, but if there was another Eddie Gamez Comic, you're like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
We're just hilarious people.
It was just like one letter off for being too long.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do comedy.
Yeah,
and
it
so,
would be too much.
And so, what are some of the shows you have coming up, and where do you usually play, and kind of what stand-up is, what in your act is new, and what can you tell us about it that is interesting to somebody who's never heard your stuff?
Well, I typically am at Gotham Comedy Club. We do a monthly show there through Comedians on the Loose.
Oh, yeah, Comedians on the Loose, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
what other comics are kind of doing that, and do you book it, and if so, how are you booking other comics on the show? What are you looking for?
Well, we started off booking it very, very simply. It started off mostly from open mics. That's where we were booking comics from. But over time, we cut the lineup and increased the caliber of comics. So when it started from open mics, now we're kind of getting more seller comics that perform at the Stand, New York Comedy Club. We're primarily focused on those. We'll have slots for some open mic comics that we think are good, but for the most part, it's going to be a pro show.
But most importantly is if I were to go see a Comedians on the Loose show, first of all, where would it be, and would I still see you on the bill? Like, you're still reserving a slot for yourself, aren't you?
Right.
Oh, good.
Right.
Thank God.
Yeah, you'll always
these seller comics. Who the hell are these people? I want to see Eddie Gamez, right?
Yeah. We're always at Gotham Comedy Club. Our next show is actually February 21st.
February 21st. And is it every month? Is it kind of the third Monday or what is it?
It's typically closer towards like the end of the month. Sometimes you got to play around with the dates. We just had a show yesterday with Matthew Broussard.
Oh, okay.
And that date was kind of like just on a whim. We had to figure that out. But typically they're towards the end of the month.
Okay, but this one will be February 21st.
February 21st.
And tell people where it is again.
Gotham Comedy Club.
Oh, great. All right. And so if they were to, is it going to be on Gotham Comedy Club's calendar, or is it also on a website that you have? I mean, they can see you through the social, but do you have an EddieGamez.com?
Yeah, EddieGamezComedy.com. I always post my shows on my calendar. It's a link on there, but it's always on the Gotham Comedy website, so you'll see it listed on there.
And that's just a big old comedy club that has some of the biggest names, right?
Pretty much.
It's good you got a show on there. How long did it kind of take you to get your own show at Gotham Comedy Club?
It was actually pretty quick to get.
Pretty easy because I'm awesome, right?
Well, I co-produced with Sonia Savanovich, and we actually did a class there. And we got in kind of that way to get to the bookers and kind of do some test shows before, and then after that it went to bi-monthly, and now it's at monthly.
Oh, good. And then what class were you teaching there? Was it How to Be Funny?
It was Jim Andrino's Stepping Stones to Stand Up.
Oh, okay. And that's actually teaching people who want to get into it kind of, what to do and how to write and how to perform?
Pretty much. It gives you the basics. It's not going to make you Jim Gaffigan or Jerry Seinfeld overnight. I definitely wouldn't tell people to go in thinking that.
Good.
But
you're being very ethical. You're not making people spend their money with false promises.
Pretty much. I would say that's definitely a class to either inspire you or teach you some type of business sense to understand that it's a business.
Oh, good. And then you were teaching that with Sonia?
No, I took that class, and then then
you got your own show. You must have been a star student.
I always try in a class. I never am that person who's just like, I don't want to be here. I went there for a reason. Might as well get my money's worth.
And kind of what is an Eddie Gamez routine? Like if I were to see a joke online and it had your fingerprints, I'd be like, no, that's an Eddie Gamez joke. Is there something that makes? What are you putting into your act, and what are you making sure never gets in there?
Well, what's in my act, I think mine the stamp on it is definitely an intensity. I used to be very low energy when I first started, but that was because I wasn't comfortable on stage yet. It wasn't even until like year 2 or 3 that the intensity started coming out. I started becoming more like I did act outs. I did everything kind of like, I wouldn't say I perform like Bill Burr. He is one of my inspirations.
Oh, sure.
But definitely the intensity is on there. I make sure that everything that I talk about, it has that intensity behind it.
And then what angle so Bill Burr will be doing it from the angle of, I'm a moron. Here's what, meaning like I have a temper. Here's what pisses me off. And here's this fucking mundane thing the other day that pissed me off so much that I had to punch a whole row full of muffins, a whole table full of muffins. Kind of, is your angle still, is it like Bill Burr in that I have a temper, or is it not? Is it just intense without being, I have a temper issue?
I would say it's intense, not necessarily from having a temper. It's from hearing things over and over again. That's just like it explodes.
So what are some of the things, your persona on stage would hear over and over that would just get you ranting?
If I heard something on stage,
or what have you been hearing in your life that you said, I have to fucking rant about this on stage?
Just even comedy drama on the scene, stuff like that. A lot of people can get really sensitive. I think oversensitive people are the ones that really just like it's too much. It's like stuff isn't that important.
Oh, so some of and I guess that touches on what we're going to bring in today, which is the PC war, the raging PC war, and how comedy, and Bill Burr talks about, comedy, can it go too far? He's always saying that, there's always some blogger who's going to take issue with one tiny joke you were workshopping. Is there a role? I mean, are you glad that there's at least one person policing comedians' acts? I mean, there shouldn't be 4,000 of them, 4,000 overly sensitive people, but, is there a role for somebody calling somebody out on a joke that might be racist or something like that?
I think that there's definite times when there are racist bits, that it's just clear racism or even like sexism, whatever. But there are other times whenever people take it too far and it's like, okay, this is obviously just a joke. Right. He doesn't actually think that something like this should happen. It's a joke. There might be racial undertones, or sexist undertones, whatever you want to call it. But sometimes people do take things too far where they want to police everything.
Yeah, and I guess some of this PC, politically correct warriors, the social justice warriors, I guess that's the wrong word, but yeah, PC cops out there on social, the rise of that has coincided, I think, with famous comedians being a little bit more personal on stage. So you get somebody, back in the day, they used to do something that was obviously a joke. Jerry Seinfeld would talk about, there's so much cheese in the pizza. They'll be just baking your head in a box of cheese. Like, that can just be absurd. But over time, you've had people do personal things, like Burr Biglia talking about things in his life, or Mulaney talking about stories in his life, where people getting more personal, legitimately personal, and having it actually coincide with their actual backstory, that's led people to understandably believe that these people are telling the truth. Right. There is a bigger kernel of truth nowadays where it's more understandable for a PC cop to say, okay, well, I mean, you're just kind of a credible persona. Why is it talking about crap that's not PC? And so does it make a little bit more sense now that the PC cops would be taking issue with things now that comics has got a little bit more truthful?
I don't really know how to answer that. It's a thing where, yeah, it would be really inappropriate to attack someone on whatever their personal story is. Yeah. But I've still seen that happen. I mean, I've still seen people, they tell their personal story. This is what happened. This is their truth and what they saw. And people still get attacked for it.
Wow.
Yeah. And we comedians on the list, we run open mics, we run shows. At every open mic, someone has something to say. And
there's somebody in the audience.
Sometimes
something to say.
It's pretty frequent.
Wow.
It's pretty frequent.
And they bring it to you because you're producing the show.
Yeah, and I'm like, I remember when we first started, we ran our first open mic, and at that first open mic, it was like back in 2016, and there was someone talking about not necessarily that they got raped, but someone that they knew got raped, and a woman from the audience wanted to go up and fight the comic. Yeah.
How the heck did that comic broach the subject? Where was it just the woman in the audience so inappropriate That she was so out of line, or do you think the comic handled it a little bit less than deftly?
She was drunk.
The person in the audience was drunk.
Yeah, the person in the audience was drunk. So
she just heard rape, and she
just heard rape, and it just, I had to physically go up and stop her because, it was just so weird.
Wow, so if it wasn't that, it would have been something else because that woman was just far too hammered.
Yeah, and, there was no malice in whatever the guy was saying, but she just heard one thing and just went off.
Wow, and then kind of how do you write or do, write comedy or do social media with jokes when or even create a brand? How do you try to do all that while navigating these PC cops, these politically correct cops out there who are policing all your material? Can you even build a brand, or can you even write, or can you even do social media if every single retweet with comment is saying how inappropriate the joke is?
Because I have two different viewpoints. There's the brand building of like a production company, which Comedians on Loose is. Right. I try to keep that completely neutral because it's a business. But in terms of my personal stand-up, I don't really go into so much politics. It's not really my thing to talk about. Right. I'm more so just like talking about like crazy life stuff that actually happens to me. Sometimes people do get offended by certain things. Maybe I had an opinion or something. I remember one time, do you remember when Angelina Jolie, she had that breast reduction because she had the gene for the BRCA gene for cancer? Yeah. I was like, okay, it's not like she's a celebrity. It was that was a what do you call it? Elective. It was elective, and then someone was like, "You have like this. You don't even know what it means to be a woman or brave or something like that."
Oh my gosh!
And I'm just like, really? Like,
I mean, and I see, it's elective because it's not really elective. It's one on this in the.
And that's when I first started off in comedy. So,
welcome to comedy, Eddie Gamez.
Yeah.
And that's less elective than certain things, meaning if you have a gene in your family that says you're going to get breast cancer, then, it's only elective in nomenclature, maybe.
I was more trying to make the point of that because she's a celebrity, she's getting attention for it. But there are actually people that really deal with stuff like that.
Yeah, they're not getting the magazine article when they get their elective double mastectomy or whatever. And then can you... do you find yourself, like if you do have a risky or adventurous joke that people might take issue with, do you find yourself self-policing with respect to where you release it? So are you less likely to release it on Twitter because people might retweet it with comment or the reply guys might come in?
I would say it's a little difficult for me to release like a whole bit on Twitter. Like let's just say there's a punchline or something. Right. There is this joke that I have about whenever I lived in Brooklyn, and one of the tags in there is I only dated black guys for 3 months because it's Brooklyn. That's all there is to do. So I said Bed-Stuy. And in that joke, there was one person that did get offended by that, and they actually unfriended me. That's what happened. Okay. I was like, it's a joke. It's like it's like that is Bed-Stuy in many ways.
And then do you find yourself trying to put things in your act that will never have to be taken out because nobody will ever be able to take offense to it? Because there has to be something frustrating about taking a bit or a collection of jokes and having to excise the whole thing because too many people are having problems with it. So are you now kind of doing a test, like a stress test on your material to make sure that you'll never have to take it out?
I would say in my first year of comedy I did that. After that, it was really hampering my writing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to own whatever I say on stage and not apologize for it.
Yeah. And also like separating I just read an article about how people should separate their creative process with their critical process.
Right.
So at the very least, write down every piece of comedy you have, and only later on, when you're revisiting it a couple of weeks later, be like, okay, well, this is the stuff that can make it into an act because it will not fuck with people, or I'm fine with it fucking with people because I'm not going to apologize for who I am.
Well, most of the stuff that I've edited out that for some people will look like, because it doesn't sound right, it's just because it didn't add any value to the joke. That's really my editing process. Does it make an impact on this joke, or is it just like filler? Yeah,
and so a lot of writing is taking out those filler words or those filler ideas that are not adding to the momentum of your act.
Right. Okay. Like I would say the other day I did an editing of one of my jokes, and in that joke there's profanities in there. Okay. And so I started cleaning them up, and the joke had the same impact without the profanity. So I was like, I need to figure out how to do that more. Not necessarily just be a clean comic, but and be able to make that joke go anywhere.
Yeah, because it's discipline, but yeah, it also means you could play in all the clean comedy rooms and things like that.
Right, and even if it's not just taking out the profanities, sometimes the profanities work in certain rooms, sometimes they don't. So
yeah, and you can punch it up on stage if you're like, man, I really need to get these people's attention.
Right, like I remember there's a joke that I have where those I did the joke in Philly. Those profanities work in Philly really well. I did the joke over where I'm from, Bakersfield, California, and the profanities did not work there. So, yeah.
Okay, and so now what's next for your act? It sounds like you are taking it to Philadelphia. You're taking it to your hometown of Bakersfield, California. Like, are you going to go on the road with comedians on the loose? Or are you going to stay at Gotham at the end of the month, February 21st?
Hey, if there's opportunities to go with comedians on the loose anywhere, I will do that. That's something that I built, so I'm always behind the brand. But I definitely would like to do road work regularly in the next coming years. I think that's an important step for all comics
to see what actually works in all the rooms.
Yeah, and like I submitted to a lot of festivals that are in the South this year, so I want to be. I feel like the South is a good area to figure out, does this really work? Can I sell myself to this crowd? Because grassroots crowds can be make or break, and they can be the ones that really, because they want to see funny, they don't get it all the time.
Right. And so who are some of the other comics that you would that are on Comedians on the Loose that you would love to bring along because you enjoy their viewpoint or you enjoy their intensity, or maybe they're not as intense as you and so it leads to a more diverse delivery show? We worked with tons of comics. I don't know if you know her, Julia Branda. Okay. She is a powerhouse comic. Good. Yeah. What kind of stuff is she talking about on stage, or is she high intensity too, like you?
She's very much the, I would coin her personality as like the Guido South Jersey girl, but it works so well for her because of the accent, everything that she says, she punches it so hard that it is one of those things where anything she says that's new, even if it's new, it's funny.
And so do you enjoy going on before her or after her? Because, I mean, are you so different? You don't have the accent. You try to, you're high intensity, but you don't have the Jersey accent.
I don't have the Jersey accent. I don't know if that would help me for my style of comedy, but it helps.
The Bakersfield, California accent? What would be that accent? Is there one?
I didn't grow up with any Southern twang at all. Bakersfield is a very Southern town, even though it's California. It's like the Texas of California. And pretty much I got the neutral accent. Oh, okay. So that's helpful, yeah. So many people around me, though, got Southern accents that it's really crazy. But with Jula, something about that, just her energy, too. When she starts going off on a rant, it's the most hilarious thing that you will ever see.
Oh, wow. And so like Jula, you said?
Yeah, Jula Branda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so it's like her and Burr are good at rants. And so are you aiming to create your own just 15-minute rant? I mean, with somebody's like, I want a Cosby story. I want a big long Cosby story, a big long story that will work as well as Cosby's did on X album. But for somebody like us who likes Burr, it's like we really want that thing where he gave his girlfriend a sweater and she came up and punched him into the bathtub. Like, is there any? I mean, is that your goal? What's kind of the biggest achievement that you could have in your act itself? Would it be having a long rant? Or having something high intensity? Like, are you rant or are you not? You're high intensity, but is that necessarily rant?
I can go rant. I remember one of these breakup bits that I had. It was a rant, and that one was. I was still really pissed about that too. And
did that work? I mean, the fact that the anger was fresh, did that help or hurt?
Well, it didn't hurt me. It didn't hurt me on stage. It did hurt, emotionally later because I was still feeling raw about it. Yeah. But I would say, even though that's painful in your personal life, it's a gift for your stage time. Wow. Because you can really tap into that. It was only 2 weeks after, and I had a show, and I did that bit, and I got really into it, where even like my head cocks were like really like. I had my co-producer ask me, she says, "Are you okay?" Afterwards, everyone was laughing, but great. Yeah, she was just like, "Are you okay?"
If it was a person in the audience, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, for someone who doesn't know me, it would be hysterical for them because that's someone who's like really just kind of like a mini breakdown, but I would say it was more calculated because I had the material behind it to keep me in center.
Oh, that's great. Like people can only hope to have breakup material that good, something that's been tested over time. But was the significant other in the audience? Was the ex in the audience?
No,
okay.
no.
What would that have done to your delivery? Would you kind of? I would almost think you would have been a little bit more restrained because there had to be some nuance in it.
I was super pissed, and when I get really pissed, I just go.
Like, it could have been less funny, meaning like you could have gone from the prepared stuff into the. It could have went from fake breakdown into real, or semi-fake breakdown into real breakdown.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully it happens one day because I would like to see what that.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious! Now, will you be doing that at Comedians on the Loose at Gotham Comedy Club, February 21st?
Yeah, I'm going to bring that one back out because I haven't done it in a while.
Oh, dude, I can't wait to see that. And are you videotaping clips and putting them on Instagram or YouTube?
I haven't done that before. I am because I didn't have an editing software on my laptop, and now I bought a laptop that's got good editing software, so I can cut those clips. I'm going to start doing that.
Dude, that bit.
Yeah,
that breakup bit might be worthy.
It's actually
of a clip.
It's a perfect minute, so it'll go good on Instagram.
We can't wait to see it. The Comedians on the Loose, February 21st at Gotham Comedy Club, and in the meantime, I can see you at Eddie Gamez Comic on Twitter, and it's Gamez.
Right, and Instagram.
And Instagram. You're also comic on Instagram.
Right.
Eddie Gamez Comic on Instagram as well. I can't wait to see that bit. Just man, if I were the ex. Yeah. Can you imagine? Just like, someday you go on TV and you're telling that thing. It's like, that was me.
Well, what's funny is I saw him this past weekend.
Has he heard about it? Has he heard about you just busting a move?
I haven't seen him since then, but luckily he gained like 20 pounds in his face. So.
Oh, gosh. I think he heard about it. I think he heard about the bit. What else makes you gain 20 pounds than your ex-boyfriend just doing a hilarious bit at your expense?
Yeah, I don't know. That was one of those good moments. I didn't even plan to see him. It was just on the train.
That was one of those good moments you didn't even know you were going to have in comedy.
Right.
Oh, right. That's so great. Eddie Gamez, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.